Okay. Hi, good afternoon. This is Jason Coppola on behalf of the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs. I'd like to welcome you to our 3 o'clock session. It's going to be presented by Connecticut Troops to Teachers, part of the Connecticut State Department of Education. The session is being recorded. Please have all your microphones muted unless you need to speak. If you need to ask questions, you can use the chat area or you can raise your hand. We're trying to wait to the end of the session to answer questions. And if you don't need your camera on, if you keep it off, that helps with bandwidth and improves the connectivity. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to the presenters of this session.
Thank you. Welcome. We are Connecticut Troops to Teachers. I am Kimberly Audette, and I'm here with my colleagues Melissa Machad Maltese and Sal Escobalis, and they're going to jump into the conversation later on through this presentation. So I'll have them just share a little bit more about their experience at that time as a teacher and also as veterans. But again, I'm Kimberly Audette. I work in the Connecticut State Department of Education, specifically the Talent Office. In that office, we are specifically focused on teacher recruitment, teacher induction, supporting beginning teachers, and also certification. So Connecticut Troops to Teachers is a program that supports veterans pursue teaching as a pathway. Being in the Talent Office, like I said, in the Bureau of Certification, we're able to answer specific questions that you have, get you connected to people that can review transcripts, give you one-on-one advice and guidance. The Troops to Teachers program has been around since the 90s. And we're here to really just alleviate the burden of having to navigate this new pathway on your own. Specifically, the Connecticut program, all Troops to Teachers programs are free, no cost to participate. And we provide, like I said, that individual counseling for education and employment. We also work with you to identify the quickest pathway to certification based on your prior experiences, either your work experiences or your educational experiences. In our program, we also have a vast network of Connecticut educators who we provide as a network for you to make connections with. So when you are at the point where you are looking for employment or even for a mentor who is an educator, we have those connections for you as part of the services that we provide in Troops to Teachers. It really is just an ongoing system of support and mentorship. We have different events throughout the year that we invite not only members of Troops to Teachers, but anybody interested in learning more about teaching. We invite them to different sessions that we have facilitated by superintendents, directors of HR, and other teachers, just so you can get a better feel of what the profession is all about, so you can talk to other veterans who are pursuing certification. And also just another opportunity to get one-on-one support and guidance from us at the Troops to Teachers office and from other Connecticut educators. Like I said, we have the career counseling. We have program coordinators at each of the state universities. Sal's going to talk a little bit more about the tuition waiver. And so because of that, we have placed program coordinators at each of the state universities to really be the specialists of those educator preparation programs on site there for veterans. There are people who know the ins and outs of the university, the ins and outs of the Ed Prep program, can connect you with faculty members, connect you to other resources on campus to help you with your application, to help identify any other financial incentives that may be available to you. And the third part there is Troops to Teachers has just a large network of committed veterans who are educators, who want to mentor, who are there to mentor, to to open up their classroom, to provide advice and further guidance. So it's additional layer of support that we have, that these are people that can help work with you from the point of enrollment in our program, helping you learn more about the profession, working with you all the way to finding your first job as a teacher and supporting you in those first few years. And then because we are part of the State Department of Education, we are connected to the school districts across Connecticut. So we're able to help identify vacant positions at districts. We are also able to get you connected to directors of HR and provide you any additional guidance or advice on resume writing and interviewing skills specific to education positions. Now, before we talk about the nuts and bolts about what you need to become a teacher in Connecticut, I wanted to share with you the shortage areas for Connecticut. These are identified every year. These were new as of April 2020. And these are the certification shortage areas that districts report to us that they have the hardest time filling vacancies. So if you are bilingual, if you are someone who's good at math or science, like those could be really great certification areas to pursue. By no means is it that we're not looking for social studies teachers or English teachers. And if that's your passion, we encourage you to pursue that. But along with the shortage areas, there are different incentives that are tied to those, housing incentives. There could be more vacancies depending on what district you are interested in working in. So this is more of a guide to help you narrow down what certification area you would like to pursue. I'm going to turn it over to Sal now. He's going to talk a little bit more from the district perspective and really what the needs are specifically to districts.
Hello, my name is Sal Escobalas, as Kimberly said. I am currently a teacher in New Britain, Connecticut, just a little background, so you have some reference here in New Britain, Connecticut. I'm currently what would be considered a half-time release teacher, as I am also the president of the New Britain Local Federation of Teachers, Local 871. So just kind of a little bit of background. In any event, the certification prerequisites for academic teaching endorsements is sort of as a general rule, it requires a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited institution. You have to have the sort of general academic coursework, and then have pursued studies in an area or major. For example, as Kimberly already talked about, science or math. And that's sort of the one half of the whole. The other half is you are to take part in a teacher preparation program, what we refer to as a professional education program. You are required to take what is the Praxis 2 exam. And that, has sort of different connotations depending on what level you are going to be certified in, meaning if you're early education versus secondary education. But generally speaking, everyone takes the Praxis or the ACT-FL, Foundations of Reading test, Early Childhood test. That's elementary education only there, those last two. Institutional recommendation upon completion of teaching, student teaching as well. And that sort of gets you all lined up and ready to apply for your first teaching job. Okay. In addition, sort of to that, there are other alternative pathways to certification in Connecticut. We've sort of recently, Connecticut as a whole, to sort of its work, the department's work, has sort of helped open up other pathways and avenues to getting a certification. So when you talk about sort of a side-by-side comparison, as you can see, generally speaking, there's what I refer to as the traditional route. Many folks refer to as a traditional route, and that's where you are online or on campus, in-person learning, doing on-campus in-person learning, generally from about 3 to 5 years is that process, right? There are credit requirements, they vary by university. and sort of you can sort of in certain circumstances do that in tandem with what's called attaining a durational shortage area permit, or a DSAP, depending on what original district you are looking for work in, and their particular needs to hire a particular person. All university programs have certification exams that kind of go along with it. And then again, once we kind of talked about was the program recommendation that I referred to in the previous slide. Now, on the other side of that, by comparison, would be what are called the alternative pathways. Those, generally speaking, are 1 to 2 year pathways and require you still to do some in-person learning in general. Usually amounting to about a 1 to 2 day commitment during the week. You can also get a 90-day certification, sort of residence educator certificate, which allows you to sort of get into the classroom much sooner or get into that position much sooner. DSAP, again, although it sort of can sort of be related to one bit the traditional route where some studies would still have to be completed, but also, again, still kind of shortens the timeline in terms of getting into an actual classroom and starting a teaching practice. They also require certification exams, the alternative programs, and they also obviously require program recommendation to attend the program. On our next slide, what we have is the Connecticut Veteran Tuition Waiver. And just as sort of as a general rule, all of the public universities, including all the Connecticut State Universities, the 12 community colleges, and the University of Connecticut, have what is called a tuition fee waiver. So the statutes in Connecticut provide that it can be waived for qualified veterans. I am a perfect example of that. I was a qualified veteran. I'm a veteran of the Persian Gulf War. It's exactly how I funded my education. I currently, and I think I failed to mention that I'm a certified biology teacher in the secondary level. So that's what I did in terms of my work in the classroom. And all of my studies, both undergrad and graduate that were done at Central Connecticut State University, were in fact paid for through a tuition waiver. And it is exactly just that. You would not be required to pay tuition. What you would be required to is to pay school fees and those sorts of things. So that's sort of the sort of ins and outs of the Connecticut tuition waiver. So one other area to talk about that is also a little bit of an exception to the rule is if you were to pursue what's called a vocational certification. And these do not require a bachelor's degree or specific certification program that I kind of mentioned previously. All you would have to do to pursue a certification in this area would be to have a high school diploma or an equivalent. You have to have a minimum of 3 years of experience in the field to teach in a traditional high school, or you would have to have 8 years of field experience to teach at what's called the Connecticut Technical Education and Career System. So oftentimes people are a little bit confused between the two. So an example would be my particular high school, New Britain High School, is considered a comprehensive sort of traditional high school. So this would be a high school that might have things back in, the time when I was in high school. So some of the folks that are my era would remember metal shop and wood shop and sort of those things. Many of those areas have now sort of become much more specialized and have actually sort of increased in breadth and in teaching content. So for example, now there are graphic arts, there's photography, there are a whole host of other specialty areas that are still a part of that sort of vocational certification under that sort of umbrella. And what is required for those are years of experience. Again, 3 years for a comprehensive high school like my own high school that I work at. And then there are the Connecticut technical high schools. For example, right here in New Britain, we also happen to have a technical high school, and it's a state technical high school, and it's E.C. Goodwin Tech. And so they have all sorts of certification programs there for students. Electrician, plumbing, heating, HVAC sorts of programming. And those folks are taught by folks in the field that have a minimum of 8 years of experience in terms of the vocational trades. automotive being another one, culinary and carpentry. In fact, we've had some former troops, the teachers, participants who have sought work in the culinary areas as well. And I believe we had one instance of an automotive person who was looking for a position as well. So in and above just having the high school diploma and those other requirements, that it does still require that you would take 6 credits, additional credits of college work, and those would be 3 credits in special education. And then those are, I'm sorry, there's 6 credits in vocational technical additional education, and then 3 credits of special education, which is to be done in the first 2 years of your certification. So oftentimes many veterans have more than enough years of experience to work in either of those settings, the technical high school setting and or the traditional comprehensive high school with some vocational programming. And then all they would do is they concurrently, as they start working in those areas, would concurrently take the coursework as they're working. It's just so that everybody knows, Connecticut has, to be a teacher in Connecticut, no matter what level, what particular area, there are mandatory or mandated background checks. So complete criminal history check is done on anyone who's trying to pursue a teaching certification. Records check with the Department of Children and Families is also a part of that process. And you would be fingerprinted and run through the national database. And that's standard all throughout Connecticut. And it is in fact standard in pretty much all states as well. In general, that's sort of the nuts and bolts of getting into the teaching field, depending on what your particular background might be as you are exiting the military or thinking of transitioning from a career that was not education into education. And so that's a sort of another good thing about the Troops of Teachers program, is that we can sort of help folks navigate that process and shorten the information gathering process along the way. So on the other side of that sort of is the idea of sort of what is teaching like as a career in Connecticut once you are in. In general, there's a good, as a whole in Connecticut, we're one of the most competitive states in terms of salary and benefits. As an average across the state, the average salary for a teacher across the state of Connecticut is $72,000, might even be just a little bit higher now. And the average starting salary for a teacher is about $50,000. All of the teachers that teach, or I should say nearly all teachers, that teach in Connecticut, their retirement plan is known as the Connecticut State Teachers Retirement System. Its acronym is TRB, which allows them to retire at age 60 with 20 years of in-state service, or retire even earlier by meeting other criteria. Military time is not purchasable with TRB if the member is able to collect a non-regular military pension. There are some circumstances where you could buy a year, for example, but if you're collecting a non-regular military pension, that time could not be bought. Supplementary salary within school communities can basically get you to earn more than that. And for that piece, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Melissa, who has examples from her particular district. Her examples are pretty much in line with the New Britain School District. So in the past, we've used our pay scale, but essentially they're pretty much aligned. So she can give you a little more detail about that.
All right, well, thanks, Sal. As he mentioned, my name is Melissa. I'm Melissa Michaud Maltese. Right now I am the part-time teacher leader in residence for Troops of Teachers. I'm also a special education teacher at Bristol Public Schools, and I co-teach chemistry as well. Fun times. I'm going to try and go fast because I keep getting bumped off the internet. But as Sal had mentioned, here's like what a typical, or this is what the actual salaries look like for the Bristol Public Schools right now. If you were starting out as a first year entry college student, you would probably start at that $47,000 range. However, being that if you're on this call, you're most likely a veteran, right? You can negotiate that salary to get a little higher bump. And what you could do is you could reference the teacher contract. And if anybody ever needed help with that, they could reach out to me. And you get 3 years of service credit towards your pay. I'm not entirely sure on the innuendo details on that, but it would be something that you would work out with the Human Resources Department. There are also, on top of these regular salaries that you get, you could be entitled to some stipends. For example, people that get like a 6-year degree or anything above that, you get a little pay bump. Department heads get pay bumps. If you could look at here at the screen, it says, you know, alternative education, art, music, library, media specialists. If there's step 1, 2, or 3, you can see the different extra amounts in pay that they get yearly in their paycheck. So you would be at your, you know, whatever step you started at, plus you would get this extra bump in your pay. There's also high school regular department heads. So they have one for each department, like math, science, special ed. They get this $5,000 extra stipend in their pay. And then middle school team leaders, they also get a $3,000 stipend pay. I know for myself, I didn't have it listed on here, but I'm considered in section D. I am a color guard coach for my high school, and I also get a stipend because it's considered a band auxiliary. So if that's something, you know, I'm not a huge sports person. I am also don't have my certification yet to be a department head. So I can't get the department head certification extra bump, but I do get the stipend for the band auxiliary one. And those are some options that are available to you. They're usually you'll see them advertised and you just apply for them. You interview really quick, and 9 times out of 10, you have a good shot of getting it if you meet the qualifications. So with that said, I think Sal wanted to talk a little bit about the New Britain salary, which is, as he mentioned before, a little bit similar to Bristol's, because we're in the urban setting school districts.
Yeah, for us, it's pretty close. I'll just keep it short. Our salary is probably within $2,000 of the salary that Melissa has presented, so it's not a huge difference. And for stipends, pretty much the same thing. In fact, our high school department head stipends are almost virtually identical. So a lot of it is just the same information.
All right,
And
thanks.
I think Melissa can tell you now. Teach, yep.
Yeah, so there's also this program that Connecticut has called Teach Connecticut, where you can connect with other teachers in the field. You can find out certification information if you were, looking at the Connecticut portal page, a little cross-side. Maybe this Teach Connect for you. For, like I said, you can connect with a mentor that's in the field in any teaching aspect. So like science, math, special ed. You can connect with me on there if you want. You can schedule an appointment and we could talk about, what your, thoughts are or desires are with teaching, and we can come up with a plan. You can apply to, if you are already in a prep program and you've applied and you paid a fee, you may be entitled to, through Teach Connecticut, apply for a fee reimbursement. So that's another service that they offer. They also offer a list of scholarships that they personally have that you can apply for, or you can look at scholarships that are nationwide on their page. There are also, let's see, what else do they offer for Teach? You can check out certification questions, how to apply, the different programs that are available. They tend to keep up to date, just like the Connecticut state website does, with what schools offer what programs for different certification levels. They even have the technical schools in there. So that's a little snapshot of Teach Connecticut. Check out their website. They have a lot of great information in there. It's easy to follow. They give you pathways for different teachers, and you won't be sorry, because there's money that you may be entitled to in that website as well. And I'll toss it back to Kim.
All right, thank you, everyone. So that is an overall view of what the Connecticut Troops to Teachers program can offer you if you are interested in pursuing a career in teaching. There's also other opportunities for employment, including paraeducator, substitutes, and tutors, security monitors. So if you are interested in employment in school districts and figuring out what it is that you need to set yourself apart from the other applicants, please get in touch with us. We are more than happy to talk about your ideas, help you navigate the next steps, and really come up with a pathway that is as expedited as possible and can get you into the classroom as soon as you can. All right, thank you very much.
Hi, this is Jason again, the moderator. Well, thank you very much for this presentation. It was excellent and very informative. Is there any questions out there or concerns or anything like that before we end the recording? Okay, I'll take that as no. So thank you again very much for your time and sharing this wealth of information. And you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.